Very good morning. How are you all? I hope all of you are fine and safe at your home. Hi, I am Vaibhav Shah and the subject is economics. We are discussing chapter number 6, that is unemployment. Today this is our lecture number 10th of this particular chapter, and today we are going to discuss about these causes of unemployment from point number 7 onwards. In previous session, we discussed two other main factors which is responsible for unemployment is lack of vocational education, that is the education related to training and employment is lacking in our education system, and along with that lack of manpower planning, that is we are not able to identify the areas where the manpower is required, and that's why the result is there is a highest level of highest level of educated unemployment is there, and due to that the unemployment ratio is increasing. Now let us discuss point number 7, that is inefficiency of public sector. Basically, the public sector is a sector which is owned and managed by government itself, and that's why there is a responsibility of a government in a socialist or mixed economy to provide maximum level of employment. But as the government is not able to provide more employment, this inefficiency of public sector result into highest level of unemployment in India also. So let us start this point, inefficiency of public sector. After independence, public sector was given more importance than private sector. There is an immense increase seen in number of public sectors and investments thereof. The quality of employment generation estimated from public sectors was not able to generate more employment because of its low productivity. Employment oriented private sectors were controlled for the development of public sectors. Moreover, private sector development was neglected, and so there was less employment generation and unemployment increased. So basically all we know is that after independence, government has adopted a conservative policy where they are not able to give very much employment to the unemployed people, because as per conservative policy we totally neglected private sector and foreign sector in Indian economy, and the highest level of importance was given to the public sector enterprises, because the government is watching each and everything very properly, and they are not wishing to have the same kind of situation as we are having during the East India Company's rule. So instead of giving more importance to private sector or foreign sector, government's conservative policy is in the favor of public sector itself. It means in majority of the countries, whether it is capitalist or mixed economy, the maximum unemployment is given by the private sector. But as a conservative policy, we haven't allowed them to run a business in India, and that's why on one hand there is not a very high level of employment opportunities generated in India, and on second hand the public sector is also not enough to provide employment. So by these two ways we can say the unemployment ratio is increased. Now after independence, public sector was given more importance than private sector. As we all know that, as we studied in economic reforms after 1991 in standard 11, that government adopted a public sector dominance economy where they given maximum number of permissions to doing a business to public sector only, and they totally neglected the growth and the development of the private sector. So after independence, public sector was given more importance than private sector, because government is wishing to have some of the strategically and defensive sectors in the hands of the government only. There is an immense increase seen in number of public sectors and investment thereof. It means after year by year, the development of public sector was very high, and we can see there is an immense increase in number of public sectors and investment after independence and specifically before 1991. One survey says that after independence and before 1991, that is during 4 decades of planning, the public sector increased by 10 times, but the employment generation is not increased that much. It means it is same as the economic growth becomes jobless growth. So here also this public sector development is become a jobless development, where they are not able to provide a highest level of employment to the unemployed persons. Next, the quality of employment the quantity of employment generation estimated from public sectors was not able to generate more employment because of its low productivity. So here we can say that the quantity of employment generation estimated from public sectors was not able to generate more employment because of its low productivity. On one hand, one government or public sector enterprise is estimated to provide a job opportunity to at least 1000 to 2000 unemployed people in one production or one producing factory or organization. But number of public sector increases but not able to generate more employment because of its low productivity. On one hand, the number of public sector is increasing, but on another hand, the productivity of this sector is not increasing as per the estimated, and that's why they are not able to provide more employment opportunities to more number of peoples. And that's why this inefficiency of public sector results into the high level of unemployment in India. So, on first hand, the low productivity resulted into low employment opportunities. On second hand, employment oriented private sectors were controlled. It means majority of the private sector are working for the profit and benefit of the community, and that's why they are able to provide more number of employment opportunities. But in India, on one hand, we give prominence to public sector, but it is failed to generate employment opportunities. On another hand, the employment oriented private sectors were controlled. It means they are not able to do their business activity in a way that public sector is doing and for the development of public sector. That's why this negligence of private sector is also resulted into high level of unemployment ratio. Moreover, private sector development was neglected, and so there was less employment generation and unemployment increase. We can see that after 1991, the private sector entered phase-wise, or we can say step by step, in Indian economy, and the dominance of public sector is reducing. So we can see that there is a growth of employment opportunities after 1991. But on other hand, as the public sector is yet not able to provide more employment opportunities, the ratio for employment opportunity is very lower. In the initial years, the private sector development was neglected, and that's why total burden of employment opportunity lies on public sector, but due to their low productivity and some kind of other official domain, etc., they are not able to provide a highest level of employment, and less employment generation and unemployment increased. So this is the seventh point, that is the inefficiency of public sector. Now 8.1 is a negligence towards agriculture sector. India is an agricultural country, and most of its population resides in villages. This population is dependent on agriculture for employment. So agriculture planning should be such that could generate more employment, but in India, economic development policy, more emphasis is given to other sector than agriculture. As agriculture was given less importance, it could not develop effectively and the planning related to agriculture sector fail to generate more employment. Advantage of green revolution is enjoyed by few states like Punjab, Haryana. So overall employment could not be created in agriculture sector. Burden of population, lack of irrigation facilities, lack of agricultural finance, uncertainty of monsoon, and few other uncertainties are responsible for poor development of agriculture. In rural area, non-agricultural sectors are not developed properly. That is why rural laborers who are dependent on agriculture face high rate of seasonal and disguised unemployment. So, the eighth and important point which we are going to discuss right now is negligence towards agriculture sector. As we all know that India is an agrarian country. Before independence, during British rule and after independence also, we are agrarian in all these three phases of Indian economy. In the initial years, the agriculture was the main occupation and the barter system was prevailing in most of the part of the country. So at that time also the dominance of agriculture was there. After that, during British rule, the poor Indian are farmers and they are farming their activities, and which we studies in Zamindari, Rayatwari and Mahalwari system. And then after independence also, because at the time of independence, out of total population, 72% population is dependent on agriculture. And year by year, if we are seeing then, from 72% to in 2001, that is 58%, in 2011 it is 49%, and in 2017-18 it still 46% population is dependent on agriculture. And the main reason behind the dependence on agriculture is that the people who are living in villages are not able to get any kind of other job, or the other sector development of village area is very low, and that's result into the growth of agriculture sector only. So maximum employment opportunities lies in agriculture in rural and backward areas, but on other hand their development of this agriculture sector is very low, because from second 5-year plan onwards the government focus is shifted from poverty and unemployment to development of basic and small scale industries for the development of Indian economy. And that's why we neglected our main primary sector, that is agriculture sector, and that results into another high level of unemployment. Now let us discuss what is given here is in textual. India is an agricultural country and most of its population resides in villages. Basically India is a villagian country. We are having on an average 6.5 lakh or more villages in a country, and that's why the main occupation of this villagian or of these people is of agriculture, and that's why India is an agricultural economy. This population, that is the villagian population, is dependent on agriculture for employment, because due to other lack of infrastructural facilities like proper roads, irrigation facility, then proper electricity facility and all other sectors, that is industrial sector, and service sector is not developed very well in these particular villages, and that's why they have to suffer a problem, and they choose the agriculture as the main occupation of the villagian public. So majority of its population resides in villages, and this population is dependent on agriculture for employment. So agriculture planning should be such that could generate more employment. But in India, economic development policy more emphasis is given to other sector than agriculture. So it means agriculture planning should be such that generate more employment. As a country, if your majority or maximum population is dependent on agriculture, then you have to make such a planning where the agriculture sector is given a prominence, and the development or the priority of development of this sector will be very higher, so that we have to make the agriculture planning in such a way that could generate more employment, because still there is a possibility that we can generate more employment with using latest and modern tools of farming, and that will helpful in employment generation also. But in India's economic development policy, we have to develop very fast, and that's why we are not focusing on the agriculture, which is the main sector for providing employment, but we are focusing on the industrial sector, which is very slow in growth rate, but still the focus is on industries than on agriculture. So in India's economic development policy, more emphasis is given to other sector than agriculture, because the prices of agricultural produce is very low, and the ratio of increase in price is also very low, and that's why the development of agricultural sector will not result into higher growth for the country, and that's why they are focusing on the other sector than agriculture. We'll discuss all these points in a very detail in chapter number 8, because the chapter number 8 is totally focusing on agricultural sector. As agriculture was given less importance, it could not develop effectively, and the planning related to agriculture sector failed to generate more employment. On one hand, the maximum employment opportunity is on agriculture sector, but on second hand, we are failed to make effective planning, and planning related to agriculture sector failed. So somewhat whatever steps taken by the India is not enough for generating more employment opportunities in agriculture sector, because the development of this sector is very low. Advantage of in agriculture sector also, by using modern tools and methods of farming, we are able to achieve a green revolution. But the advantage of green revolution is enjoyed by few states like Punjab and Haryana. Line this particular statement, it may be asked for 1 mark in your examination, that the advantage of green revolution is enjoyed by which states. So Punjab and Haryana is having the highest level of green revolution effect, because the main ingredient necessary for green revolution is water, and Punjab and Haryana is having the highest level of water availability and irrigational facilities, and that's why these two states are able to grab the opportunity and to advantage of green revolution. So overall employment could not be created in agriculture sector, because we are focusing on development through green revolution, but due to this we are not able to provide overall employment, and that's why whatever we are estimated employment generation from this agriculture sector, we failed, because limited advantage is grabbed by the limited states of green revolution. So overall employment could not be created in agriculture sector, Burden of population. Now, what are the factors that are responsible for slow growth rate of agriculture is? First one is burden of population. As we know that growth rate of population in India is very high. We will discuss this point in chapter number 7, that is focusing on population itself. So high burden of population on agriculture, that is dependency ratio is very high. Second one is lack of irrigational facility, because we are not having that much enough water sources availability where we can provide enough irrigation facility to all the farming areas or to all the agricultural lands. Lack of agricultural finance, because till the day NABARD and all other agriculture related finance companies or agencies are not able to provide enough agricultural finance as per the requirement of this sector, and this becomes also one of the reason for this particular factor. Uncertainty of monsoon, as we all know that Indian agriculture is totally dependent on monsoon, but the monsoon is uncertain, that is we are not having enough water availability, or if the water availability is there, then also the harvesting can be happened in monsoon and winter only, while in summer, due to this lack of irrigational facility and lack of water, we are not able to provide any kind of agricultural produce. So burden of population, lack of irrigation facilities, lack of agricultural finance, uncertainty monsoon, and few other uncertainties are responsible for poor development of agriculture. Line this particular statement and write down the question that which are the reasons for poor development of agriculture. So you have to mention this 5 or 6 reasons for the poor development of agriculture. In rural area, as we discussed that majority of the population still residing in rural, so in rural area non-agricultural sectors are not developed properly because of the lack of infrastructural facilities like the proper delivery, or we can say the continuous availability of water, continuous availability of electricity, proper roads, availability of raw material, availability of market is not there in rural areas. So all these inavailability, or we can say the lack of all these infrastructural facilities, results into the growth of agriculture sector only, while other sectors are not developed in this village area properly. So in rural area, non-agricultural sectors are not developed properly, because we cannot see any of the big industries located in the rural or remote area, and that is why rural laborers who are dependent on agriculture face high rate of seasonal and disguised unemployment, as they are not able to get employment in any other sector, because the development of other sector is very low, or we can say it is almost zero in rural areas, and that's why the total population dependency is on agriculture, because they are not able to get employment in any other sector, as they are not developed in these areas. Even today, many of the villages or rural areas are facing the lack of infrastructural facilities, like there is no proper roads to even transport their agricultural produce to nearest market area. No proper availability of electricity, because there is only availability of 8 hours for irrigation facility only, and while in other time they are not able to get proper electricity, they are not able to develop any kind of other infrastructural facilities like small scale industries or cottage industries, so that the employment opportunities in sectors other than agriculture is almost zero, and they are not able to get employment in any of the other sectors. Rural laborers who are dependent on agriculture will be having agricultural produce or harvesting season in 2 seasons a year. Otherwise, there will be, if there is a proper availability of all these kind of facilities and irrigation facility, then they will be able to produce in all the 3 seasons. But due to lack of irrigation facility or proper water resources, or the storage of water is not available, agriculture finance is not there, and because of these so many reasons they are not able to produce agriculture in all the time. Sometimes it may happen that if they are not able to produce in all the season, then they will move towards another sector for employment. But as other sector, that is industries or secondary sector, and tertiary, that is service sector, is not developed in village areas, they are not able to get employment after these seasons or whenever there is no produce in farming. So this negligence or not development of other sector in village area result into high rate of seasonal and disguised unemployment, because as they are able to getting farming, or as they are able to getting agricultural produce in 2 seasons only, they remain unemployed for the third season, that is in a summer, and that's why seasonal unemployment is there. Sometimes it may also happens that they are not able to get full-time agriculture because of the limited availability of water and other resources, that also result into underemployment and seasonal unemployment. And if the other sector is not developed very properly in these areas, it may result into highest level of disguised unemployment, where more number of people are engaged in the same field than required, because they are not able to get employment in any other sector. So they think that to supporting a family in agriculture is also one of the type of employment, but they result into the disguised unemployment because their marginal productivity in total employment is zero. So due to these factors, that is the unavailability of agricultural necessities, and second one, due to or underdevelopment of other sectors, that is industries and services, Indian agriculture is also facing unemployment of seasonal and disguised nature. Now, after point number 8, last 2 points, that is low mobility of workers and lack of infrastructural facilities. And with these 2 points, we will complete this particular question of causes of unemployment. Basically, all these 4 factors, that is fourth one is capital intensive production technique, that is also dependent on unemployment. But this 4 point, that is lack of vocational education, is dependent on lack of manpower planning. So this 2 point is interrelated, and along with that, the inefficiency of public sector and negligence towards agricultural sector is also interdependent. All these 4 points is interdependent to each other, because here we can see 2 types of unemployment. That is, first one is a educational unemployment in initial 2 points, that is lack of vocational education and lack of manpower planning, because both of these points is dependent on education, and it shows the inefficiency of education sector and lack of manpower planning, while the inefficiency of public sector, that is the government is failed to provide more employment, and along with that negligence towards agriculture sector, where they are not able to develop this sector properly because of the so many limitations. Both this results into the highest level of unemployment. So basically this 4 factor is discussing the type of unemployment, that is educated unemployment and seasonal or disguised unemployment. When we will discuss this point number 9th and 10th, we will talk more about it, and with this 2 point we will conclude this particular topic over here. So today we are concluding our session over here. Today we discuss mainly 2 points, that is inefficiency of public sector in providing more employment opportunities or employment generation, and second one is the negligence towards the agriculture sector, which is the highest employment opportunity provided sector in Indian economy. Okay, I hope you enjoyed my session, and if any of the difficulties and doubts is there, please feel free to ask me. Thank you very much, class.